So now we're going to talk about the LRP. That's the logistic release point. So the establishment of the LRP is the responsibility of the Battalion S4. All right, he's going to establish that. So let's talk about each of those steps. So the LRP, established by the Battalion S4. So he's going to determine the location and the time of the LRP. Now, in terms of location, what is preferable, because security is important, you have to maintain security. So what is preferable in terms of location is try to have the LRP at the Combat Trains Command Post, inside of that, because you don't have to worry about establishing external security. So I think that's important. So first sergeants, you need to be there 30 minutes prior, because you got to think about your travel time as you move from your company command post or your company area and what it's going to take to get to that LRP. So you need to be there about 30 minutes prior, because you're also going to conduct the LRP meeting, and that's going to take you about 15 minutes. All right? And so at the LRP, you're going to conduct the LRP sync, and we'll talk about agenda pieces and who's involved in that. And then really after that, you're there, you are, prepare to receive, your log pack that's being pushed up from the BSA. And we talked about how that's built, how that's developed, and what that's important is. The other piece that makes this LRP successful, and this is in the TACSOP, is we talked about vehicle marking. And so what we did is we aligned vehicle marking with our bag marking SOP. So I'm HHC Brigade. The bottom of my bag is tan with blue letters. So HHC Brigade log pack as a brigade is blue. So that's blue flag, blue tape, whatever you want it to be. And then every echelon underneath that company, we broke those down into colors as well. And so if you're HHC Brigade, the top flag is blue, and then I think the second flag or piece of tape is blue as well, which annotates, First Sergeant Griffing is the one you're going to follow. And he's going to take you to the TOC and make sure that the resupply is done. And so that's important, that's SOP. The other thing that's important to understand here is the order of march that is coming in from the LRP. Because at the LRP, once that sync meeting is over and you're waiting on your log pack, there's no stopping, okay? So we have to know by battalion, what order are we in, all right? So is it our attachment, our 2-5 Cav, and then potentially 136, 341, 16th, maybe 6-1's first, okay? But that's important because all of the first sergeants from 6-1 Cav are going to be the first ones lined up, ready to receive. And as that log pack moves in, they literally are following their company first sergeant and moving out. There is no stopping at the LRP. And the last thing to remember about the LRP, it's a 2-hour return. So from the time that LRP, you pick it up, first sergeant, you have 2 hours from that point to be back. Why is that important? And I will tell you from experience. If you're not back in that 2 hours, remember how far back I said the BSA might be, 30 kilometers? You're the one going to take your element all the way back to the BSA. So that's the importance of returning, because we have to stay on that clock. We have to stay timed. Okay, so that's kind of the LRP. First sergeants, what do you owe at the LRP? So we talked about that sync meeting. And so I did a couple of notes. So what are your responsibilities? What are your do-outs? We'll call it do-outs. So your do-outs at the LRP sync meeting is your head count. You're confirming your head count. And then you're confirming this as well, your attachments and detachments. So there's an S1 rep at the LRP sync meeting. And that head count is important. But it drives more than just the S1 understanding. It also drives how many plates of chow you get, okay? Your class 1 that you get. Because 101 determines task organization. So you may be assuming some attachments or pushing out detachments. You could have engineers or whatever. That's being confirmed. So you owe that at the LRP sync meeting. The other thing that I think that you owe, casualty updates. You owe casualty updates and replacement needs. So as you have folks that were potentially DOW or KIA, you need those replacements. And so you're confirming all that with the S1 as well and with the medical folks. So your casualty updates. What if the casualty feeder cards didn't get all pushed forward from a last contact that we had? Provide that there, okay? Now let's go to the maintenance aspect, right? So first sergeants, you owe 5988s. You got to turn those in, all right? And it's twofold, right? So it's turn in, and then it's also pickup. At the CTCP, that's where the VSAT is at. And so that's where your PLO clerks are ordering parts, and so they can print those 5988s for you. So it's a receipt from the MCS, the maintenance control sergeant, and then issuing your new 5988s. And that should be done on a 72-hour turnaround. All right, so every 72 hours you should be turning in a 5988, picking up fresh 5988s. So it's continuous maintenance that's being done at the crew level. And then if it's beyond that 72 hours, we're inside of it, it's probably emergency or deadline O2 type stuff that you're confirming and that you owe. What else do you owe at the sync meeting? I think you owe, if you need recovery assets, you owe that to the MCS. You owe an updated slant. You know, we get these reports and we send things through JCR, we send them through FM, but you know, there's nothing any better than face-to-face conversation. So make sure that it's understood what your slant is, how many systems you have up, if you have javelins down, very important. First ones, I think you owe the center mass grid of your element. So why is that important to give the center mass grid? Well, if the S4 gets an emergency resupply request from you, then that center mass grid that has been confirmed at the LRP sync meeting, that's where they're going to go to. And so it gives them a point of reference and hopefully a location and updates our graphics as well. First sergeants, I think you also need to provide hard copy of that log stat. All right, again, nothing better than face-to-face, shaking hands, looking people in the eye. And the log request, okay? Have hard copies of that. Just write it down. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could be on any piece of paper, okay? And then the last thing I think that you owe, not that this is all inclusive, is issues, requirements. You know, what do you have beyond what is being provided? You know, maybe there was something unscheduled that you need that didn't get into your log request. Bring that up. Again, nothing better than you're looking the S4 in the face and he or she can make sure that that is part of the log stat. You know, because your audience here, right? So your audience is the S4, right? You got an S1 rep as well, right? You got the MCS. You got medical representation here, either PL, platoon sergeant, potentially the PA based upon mission set. So all those folks are there to help. And then of course, you know, from a command perspective, you know, you got the HHC commander, first sergeant, that are also part of this. So that's what you owe when you come to that sync meeting. So that 30 minutes, you know, that you need to get there early, that's kind of why, so that this can quickly be talked about. Now once this meeting is done, you're waiting, right? You're waiting on that log pack to come. So that timing is important, understanding when that LRP is supposed to pick up. You know, and that JCR is pretty amazing. We can look at the element when it leaves the BSA and track its movement. All right, so that talks about the LRP. And so the last piece that we're going to go into, First Sergeants, is we're going to talk about your company resupply operation and kind of how that should go. So let's talk about your company resupply operation. So, company resupply. Your primary means of resupply should be this method right here, service station. So you should be establishing a center focal point of resupply and they should be coming to you, okay? So how does that happen? So you've picked up your log pack from the LRP, you've moved and you continue moving, and now you are heading towards your company location, all right? So the first thing that has to be done is you have to establish, your job, First Sergeant, is to establish the location. So hopefully you've already done that, you've done a little IPB, you know, hopefully it's in an area that maybe has some high ground around it, okay? So you're establishing that location, and maybe you've already done that before you even left the company. So what you do is, now you're gonna make an FM call, and the FM call is an alert where you're telling the company you're on your way, and then hopefully you've already determined what the security plan is. So you should be calling one platoon sergeant saying, establish security at the location that was determined or predetermined in preparation to receive the company log pack, all right? So you're making that call, and a platoon is moving out and they're establishing security. And then the next thing you're gonna decide is the order of march for resupply, okay? That could be based upon priorities that the commander has established or simply based upon location or proximity to the log pack operation. And then after that, you're gonna conduct your resupply. And again, remember, 2 hours from the time you left the LRP, 2 hours. So it's got to be a very efficient operation. So let's talk about layout. This is a recommendation. It's not how you have to do it. It's just a way. So we talked about its service station. So the vehicles are going to roll through and get all of their classes of supply in a one-stop line. What I would make first is I would do maintenance. All right? I'd have my contact truck. That'd be my first thing that I had there. Why is that important? When I was company first sergeant, if you didn't turn in a 5988, you didn't get chow, which is further on down the line, all right? It's a great forcing function. So that's 5988 turn in, maybe parts, something like that, pickup, okay? Validate, you know, maybe validate a fault And again, if you want to say no 5988, it'll get learned very quickly that you need to have that before you move on to the next piece. You could have an LHS that could be next in the line, all right? And that LHS, that's your class issue, all right? So maybe the LHS has got the class 9 parts that we're picking up. And the maintenance guys are ensuring, hey, that's for your platoon sergeant, platoon leader, all right? Maybe there's class 2 uploaded on here, all right, that you need. Maybe there's class 4, maybe you got some concertina wire, maybe some wood, some barrier material that you requested, sandbags. So class 4 issue. So that's a recommendation, is that LHS that comes with you is doing that. Next, the MEV. So now you got your medic there, right? And so he or she is potentially issuing, class 8 that you've used during action or contact. And then any medical issues, call it a mini sick call, call it what you want, all right? Maybe you got medical issues, somebody needs to be seen. So as you're stopped here at the maintenance, push those folks forward, tell them to go see the medic. Next, your FMTV that your supply sergeant is driving should have a trailer with it. Same thing, maybe he or she's got some class 2 in that trailer that he's issuing. But the other piece to that trailer is, and you better have a plan for this, because this right here will become a problem, all right? Trash, how are you collecting trash? That's what I would do with that. Have a dedicated piece of equipment. Could be this, depending on what the load is coming in, but you got to think about that, because it's got to be backhauled, has to be. Nothing worse than having to carry that stuff around with you 2 and 3 days. All right, so after that, then you have potentially your FMTV with your supply sergeant, all right? Their primary role at this point is class 1 issuance, all right? Issuing class 1, and not just food, water, ice, mail, right? So sustained operations, they're probably issuing out mail to the platoon sergeants as well. And then that's where your replacements may also be. So as you have replacements that are coming forward from the BSA, they should be in the back of that truck. They're probably going to help serve chow, as a matter of fact, while the operation is going on, and then you'll pick them up after that. The thing about here is, how are you issuing that class 1? And first sergeants, we talked about that a little bit in the previous podcast, but if you don't have a method to that, such as MRE boxes or pre-wrapped, I used milk crates as a first sergeant. That's what I used about. But again, 2 hours to get back to the LRP site. I can't tell you that you have to have already thought about this. And if you don't have the utensils, the silverware, and all that stuff, it's not going to go well. Not going to go well. I want to go back at trash real quick. All right, National Training Center only. Clear trash bags. I just had to put that in as a disclaimer, because if you don't put it in a clear trash bag, it's not getting turned in at the National Training Center. Potentially your last stop here is your class 3. So fuel, and that's potentially maybe 3P, your package products as well. And so there is your service station, right? You can service both sides, right? That's a good thing about it, and so you're moving a platoon through. Don't forget, you got to rotate security. So recommendation is that the first platoon moves through and does this, they go and relieve the platoon that's on security, and they rotate through next. And this is a very efficient way of executing your company resupply operations. Again, a way. So let's talk about tailgate. Why would you use tailgate? Well, tailgate could be used if you're in a tactical assembly area, maybe a coil, or particularly a logger formation. So Israeli logger was something that we used in Desert Storm a lot. And so you had 3 columns of elements, and so the resupply literally moved through the middle and hit each one of us as they passed through. So the enemy threat's low in that case. So that's the thing, all right? And then in position resupply is kind of the third way. And so when would you use in position? When would you go to your platoons and where they are? Defensive operations, defending at the time, emergency resupply, and then of course the squadron, the scouts up on the screen line, you're potentially going to use in position most of the time, all right? So again, that is a way of conducting company resupply operations. The purpose of all this, was not to make you logistics or sustainment experts or anything like that, first sergeants, but it was kind of to give you a broad-based understanding based upon the TACSOP and the BCT concept of support and concept of sustainment, and then how that works all the way down to you at the company level, and how you potentially should be executing sustainment and log pack. This is only going to happen once a day. There may be occasions where it happens twice, but very rarely, because you remember that log clock that we talked about. It's very difficult if I want to start doing this twice a day, but this has to be efficient. And you are the experts, First Sergeant. You are the ones, as I told you, that are forward-looking for your commanders and managing transition, because that's what these moments are. These are moments of transition, consolidation and reorganization. You are the experts. You're the senior member of your organization, and senior enlisted member, and this is the expectation. Thanks. Ready first.